we did the drawing for the prize of the night, and the lucky winner is Judy Davis.
Judy Davis gets the kolaches. Where is Judy? Oh, she's way back there, isn't she? He's helping with one of the.
That's okay. We'll give it to Judy, maybe.
It's on. It is on.
And also, I do want to tell that the library, Kay had this project going for the library. It was a bingo, all summer long it was a bingo, and you're supposed to do all these different projects. I could read them all to you, but she would kill me, so. Anyway, one lucky person went and filled them all. We had very few people that was challenged. They did just straight bingo. A lot of them did straight bingo, but one wonderful young lady did all of them and answered all the questions. So, and she just happens to be here tonight for us. So she won the library's wonderful basket with the drink cups in there, and there's lots of different things. So, without further ado, Kay will present it to Gabriella Ostry.
So I'm not really supposed to be here. I had a library board meeting. So Jane is going to introduce. Thank you so much, Jane. But I do want to welcome you, and she's going to do it officially. So without further ado, here's Jane Burrish.
Thank you. First of all, we thought it'd be nice if we'd have a moment of silence for the 9/11 victims. Welcome to the 9th program in the Towns of the Country series, co-sponsored by the Hruska Memorial Library and the Butler County Historical Society. In 1873, the early settlers of Butler County wisely voted that the county seat should be centrally located, and David City was born. If not for the towns of Butler County, David City would not even exist. That is why we are celebrating the county seat of David City's 150th anniversary with these programs about the 12 incorporated towns of Butler County. It is because of these towns that David City has thrived. The presenters of this series are people who live in and are proud of their towns. We owe them our thanks for creating and presenting these programs. Giving a program isn't easy. We ask that you please hold your questions until the end of their presentation, when we will open the floor for questions. We also ask that you mute your telephones. And now let's hear about the history of Bruno. We are proud to introduce you to the Ostry family.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Matthew Ostry from the Bruno region. The only regret that I have is one in doing this presentation for Bruno is we cannot do enough justice to all the dedication and hard work that our ancestors of Bruno community have put in. So I ask on a personal note, all those who have had or have a Bruno address, please rise to be recognized. With that, I dedicate this video and this presentation to all those of the Bruno community. With that, please turn off the lights.
country's cause. Some lost their lives in wars. Let's not forget our loss. To defend the freedom dear to all of us today, to forget them now would not preserve their cause. They paid a price and lost their lives. They sacrificed for us, and now today our country is still free.
Very little data is available before 1880. The northeast corner of Butler County was the home of the Pawnee Indians, the endless prairies and wild buffaloes. The Sioux Indians were great rivals, and bitter battles were fought, as shown by the large number of bones and skulls found by the early settlers. That is why the name Skull Creek was used for the creek, the township, and even the town. The earliest date for this territory was the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. The next was when Nebraska was admitted to the Union in 1867. Then in 1868, Butler County was organized in honor of William O. Butler. Though in the beginning of its history, Skull Creek Township had many Yankee, German, and Irish settlers, it has come to pass that in the 1870s, European settlers from Bohemia were finding Butler County a suitable place to start a new life. My ancestors on my father's side, George and Apollena Undiel, came here from Moravia, which is now Czech Republic, in 1872. My ancestors on my mother's side, Frank Koziszek, who fought in the Civil War, and his wife Anna Koziszek, came from Wisconsin to settle in these parts in 1873. It must have taken a lot of courage and determination for these early settlers to come out here to this wilderness and live in a tent until they could build a dugout or a sod house. Even though they made crude homes with dirt floors and sides, the dirt formed natural insulation and were fairly warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Most of the places these people came from had an abundance of trees providing shade and fruit. That is something the pioneers wanted to grow along with breaking up the sod to grow crops for the livestock and for their personal livelihood. Framed houses were being built to replace sod houses, and lumber was hauled from Fremont or Lincoln in 1879. In 1887, the Fremont, Elkhorn, and Missouri Valley Railroad, subsidized by the Chicago and Northwestern Railway Company, started laying track in this part of Butler County, Section 10, putting up a depot, which they called Skull Creek Station. During the same year, the Pioneer Town Site Company was dedicating, mapping, and platting town sites. That part of Section 10, on which Bruno stands, belonged to Andrew Beanie and was purchased by the company. Work on the railroad was rapidly progressing, but before the last spikes were driven, John F. Stava had purchased a lot on the future Main Street and began excavating for a cellar of which was to be the first building in this village, a general merchandise store. He had already hauled and cut the lumber for it at his farm home. In January 10, 1893, a petition signed by T.F. Mahoney and 51 others made application for the incorporation of the village of Bruno. On January 21st, 1893, the petition was approved with the appointment of the first village board. T.F. Mahoney, chairman. Anton Tacek, clerk. M.W. Mahoney, treasurer, and V.A. Prushkovets, street commissioner. In the days before the coming of the railroad, there were 3 local post offices, or places of mail movement in the homes of the acting postmasters. Skull Creek, A.L. Nelson, 2.5 miles southwest of Bruno. Appleton, J. Dostal, 4.5 miles west of Bruno. And Newton, J. Castle, 6.5 miles southeast of Bruno. The post office, located at the farm home of a German family living about 2 miles south and west of the present town site, was called the Skull Creek Post Office. In 1887, the railroad built a depot, at which time a petition signed by John Postvar and others was circulated to move the post office to the area where the depot was built. There was another post office named the Shell Creek Post Office, and the 2 names being similar, there was much confusion in delivering the mail to the right location. A petition was made to have the name Skull Creek changed to Brno, in memory of the old city in Moravia, Europe. There are 2 explanations why it was called Bruno rather than Brno, as requested in the petition. One is that in reply to the petition, it was stated that there already was a post office called Brno in Nebraska. The other is that Brno was Americanized to Bruno, as it was more easily pronounced. The Bruno area has had its share of major storms over the years, but has been fortunate in being spared the devastating loss of life. The blizzard of 1888 has been talked of much. The memories of the storm are now fragments of information passed down through the years. Alois C. Tomek, with his brother and sister, were coming home from school in the storm. Their mother went out to meet them with a quilt for protection, and as they started for home, she lost her sense of direction. It was their father who went to look and found them and brought them home safely. Frank Chernolavec tells how he walked over to the neighbor who needed some help on a beautiful sunny morning. By early afternoon, they could see the storm coming, so he started for home. And when he was about halfway, the storm overtook him with such fury that he had to look for the fence line and trees for guidance. The drought of the 1930s, commonly known as the Dirty 30s, will probably never be forgotten by those who experienced it. It had been so dry for so long that on windy days the sun would become obscured because of the density of dust in the air. Farmers trying to work the ground were surrounded by dust so that they were hardly visible in the fields. To make matters worse, grasshoppers were so numerous that at times during migration they appeared as clouds drifting across the sun. Farmers had rigged up traps about 10 or 12 feet long on the front of cars or pickups and would then drive through the fields, catching the grasshoppers in the trap and then pouring tractor fuel on them to kill them. June 23, 1963 started out with a nice rain during the night, but this turned out to be a nightmare for many citizens of this area. Reports of 14 inches to 18 inches of rain had fallen by morning. Complicating the situation was a problem that began about 2 miles south of town. The railroad had been in the process of removing ties from the railroad bed that ran parallel with the creek. The rising waters began to float the ties, and they eventually formed a dam against the bridge. After the water had risen high enough to break up, it let loose at once, sending a large wall of water cascading down the creek. Many citizens along the north edge of town were trapped in their homes. Boats were called to rescue them. There was no loss of life, but damage to buildings, livestock, and crops was tremendous. August 2, 1970 also started out as a fairly nice day. Towards evening, a line of clouds developed in the northwest, but it did not indicate that anything serious was developing, and the anticipation of needed rain was on the minds of many. However, when the storm hit this area, surface winds of up to 75 miles per hour did much damage. Many trees in town and the surrounding area had been snapped off or uprooted. Business places in town had the windows broken out, and there was much damage from the wind-blown rain entering the places of business. Electric power was off for several hours, as the trees that broke off had taken the wires with them. There was no loss of human life or serious injury. Many birds caught in the wind and driving rain did not survive. Ernest Sofall, who resided west of town, stated that he had picked up over 250 dead birds in his farmyard. Most of these were sparrows.
In 1889, school district number 86 was organized in Bruno. The following year, in 1890, a one-room schoolhouse with an entryway was built for $646. After 6 years of dedicated service, the one-room schoolhouse was moved to the main street of Bruno, and a 4-room, 2-story school was erected on this location in 1896. Grades kindergarten through high school were taught here for many years. In 1960, parts of local districts 28 and 61 were annexed to District 86, along with Districts 54 and 46 in 1968. Following these annexations, a new school was constructed with 2 classrooms, a combination gym, a multi-purpose room, and a teacher's room.
46 students and teachers formally moved into the new building on December 15, 1969. This included the lower grades, K through 4, 26 pupils and teacher Amelia Tomek, and upper grades 5 through 8, 20 pupils and teacher Mrs. Joan Petrzelka.
Many students were taught in this school until its closing in 2004. The school building is currently being used as a civic center for the Bruno community, hosting many graduation parties and family get-togethers.
In 1927, a basketball team was formed for the Bruno High School. The team's mascot were the Bobcats. After winning 19 of the 22 games played during the regular season and first place in our class in the Butler County tournament, the team went to the Nebraska State Tournament. The team traveled by car to Brainerd, where they boarded the Union Pacific passenger train, which took them to Lincoln. They stayed at the Cornhusker Hotel. The team was composed of 10th grade Edward Nucall, William Rosanek, Theodore Stava, and Roman Smausch. 9th grade Frank Rowe and Jerry Pershkovets. 8th grade Louis Tomek. Their coach was Clarence Butte. They won the first 3 games, scoring 16 points in all 3 games. For the last and championship game, they scored 12 points and got beat by Hyannis 15-12. A famous athlete from Bruno High School is Roman Carl Rowe, who was born in Bruno, Nebraska, September 8, 1917, to Frank J. and Anna E. Rowe, the youngest in the family of 6 boys and 2 girls. He attended grade school and 2 years high school at Bruno Public School. In his freshman and sophomore years, a few of the boys talked to the principal, Bill Anvil, into organizing a basketball team, and that helped Roman in his future sports career. High school practice was on an outdoor cinder court by the original old Bruno Public School building. They played the preliminary games in the Turner Hall building before the town team games. Some of the Bruno High School players in 1932 were Edward Spots, George Hussik, Stephen Jelinek, and Louis Dolezal. Roman was featured in the John Hicks column, Believe It or Not, a nationally syndicated column in the World Herald, for scoring all the points against Staplehurst, Nebraska, winning 15-9. In the early years, most every town was privileged to have a banking institution due to the difficulty in traveling to a larger town. The Bruno State Bank was chartered in 1890. The bank was organized with a capital of $25,000, with $6,000 paid in. In 1914, a second bank was organized, which was known as the Farmers and Merchants Bank. Joseph Dvorak was the cashier. On March 18, 1929, this bank was consolidated with the Bruno State Bank. In 1931, the bank was closed, and was taken over by the state of Nebraska. In 1934, the Bruno Cooperative Credit Association was organized in the building formerly occupied by Bruno State Bank. The co-op was in existence for approximately 10 years and then was phased out. A whole block of business places was destroyed by fire in 1896. John F. Stava's general merchandise store was also destroyed, which was the first building that went up in the new town. He had insurance that paid $900 on store and stock. Unfortunately, they were worth $4,000. It was a great loss, but all the customers paid their bills and insisted Mr. Stava rebuild. With the insurance money and a couple $1,000s he borrowed, Mr. Stava started to rebuild. The building was finished in December, ready for the Christmas business. March 1st, 1899, Father Roch of St. Mary's Church, David City, came to Bruno to meet with the Catholic people of the Bruno area. He had a check for $1,000 from Anthony A. Hurst family of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with the stipulation that it be used by a worthy community towards a new church. Father Roch felt the Bruno Catholic community was worthy and very much in need of a church, and so M.W. Mahoney, Anton Tachek, Joseph Lavach, and Joseph Shabata were selected as a building committee. By May, the committee obtained cash donations and subscriptions amounting to $1,500, and a contract was signed with E.R. Watson of David City to build the church for $2,550. By October 10th of same year, the church was completed and dedicated to St. Anthony. From February to October 1901, Father Klein of Brainerd was placed in charge of Bruno Parish, and he had a rectory built. In October of 1901, Father Zalud was appointed first resident pastor and remained for 20 years. On June 29, 1903, at 2 p.m., a tornado destroyed the church. During the time before a new church was built, masses were held at the Bruno Public School and the Old Catholic Workmen's Hall. Father Zalud and Joseph Yendrick collected the sum of $2,270 plus insurance monies. By the year of August 16, 1905, a new church costing $5,000 was blessed by Bishop Thomas Bonacum. Then in 1907, lightning struck the church steeple at 11 p.m. and damaged it badly, but was repaired. Some of the church's yearly celebrations and moneymakers were held on June 13th, the patron saint day. A special mass was held, and afterwards, the various church organizations, led by a band, would march to the open-air pavilion on the west edge of town. The local band, Zejukas, would entertain and play for the dance in the evening. At noon, the church ladies would serve a chicken dinner with all the trimmings. In March 1943, Father Charles F. Rada came to Bruno. After the war, a new rectory was constructed at a cost of $21,000. In 1959, the parish hall was built. Monsignor Francis Kopetsky's 50th anniversary of his ordination was the first social event held there. The hall was named after him, St. Francis Hall. Father Wenceslaus Slutky arrived in 1960, and he served until 1965. It was while he was here we started the annual duck suppers to raise money. In 1970, Father Stanley Schieffer came to St. Anthony's. While he was here in Bruno, a new church was erected. Several parishioners were asked to serve on the building committee, namely Louis Koza, Herman Ostry, Ellis Prushkovets, Edward Sedlacek, Donald Stera, and Lottie Sobota. After much planning, the groundbreaking was held on May 19, 1974. On September 7, 1975, the parish celebrated their Diamond Jubilee. It was the dedication of the new church. On June 13, 1999, St. Anthony Parish celebrated the centennial of its founding. A Mass was celebrated by Bishop Fabian Brushkovets, Pastor Father Thomas Lux, and visiting priests. A dinner and program followed, and an honoring of the oldest parishioners and youngest parishioners. St. Anthony Cemetery land was donated by Mr. and Mrs. Jacob Pellon. Their son, Anton, was the first person to be buried in it. He had been killed when his team and wagon was struck by a train on a crossing southwest of Bruno. The cemetery is located 1 3/4 miles southwest of Bruno. The Bohemian National Cemetery of Bruno is located 1 1/4 miles northeast of the village. The deed was filed in 1900, with early graves dated that same year. German Evangelical Lutheran Cemetery of Skull Creek is located 1 1/2 miles south of Bruno. A record was filed in 1900, but the monuments show burials as early as 1893. Also in our records is the Talbot Cemetery on the Joe Castle farm, where 2 sons, one 5 years old and the other 2 years old, were buried in 1878 and 1884. Bruno can boast of having a physician for 50 years. Following his graduation from Creighton Medical College in June of 1902, Dr. J.A. Yelen came and located in Bruno. He not only served people as a physician, but was also very much involved on the school board and village board. He was born on May 6, 1876, to Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Yelen of Dodge, Nebraska. He practiced medicine until his death on February 12, 1957. He married Nellie M. Mahoney on May 19, 1903. They had 3 sons and 2 daughters. On Sunday, August 24, 1952, the community of Bruno honored Dr. J.A. Yelen. Over 1,000 people jammed the streets to pay him tribute for his 50 years of service as a physician to the community of Bruno. Starting the day's festivities was a radio show by Jerry Havel's orchestra at the Commercial Club Hall, broadcast by KFGT Fremont. Before the parade began, Dr. and Mrs. Yelen were taken in a Buick convertible down Main Street and back to the platform near their home, where they were seated with Right Reverend Monsignor Kopetsky and their family and grandchildren. The Brainerd Municipal Band led the parade. Also leading the parade with U.S. flag were civic and church board representatives. These were followed by the floats prepared by the Bruno businessmen and the Catholic Youth Organization of the parish, depicting scenes from the doctor's life. The invocation and benediction were given by Monsignor Kopetsky of St. Anthony's Catholic Church. Following the program, a chicken dinner was served in the Commercial Club Hall by the ladies of St. Anthony's Parish. At 7 p.m., the parade of floats was repeated and followed by a dance in the evening. Months of planning climaxed the weekend of August 23rd to the 25th, 1963, for the residents of the Bruno community as they celebrated the 75th anniversary of the founding of the town. The Diamond Jubilee started Friday afternoon with Family Fun Day, with a free watermelon fee, free rides for the children in the evening, and a free dance at 8 p.m. On Saturday afternoon, threshing, as in the good old days, was featured. For many of the several thousand persons attending the threshing demonstration, it was the first time they had seen a steam engine and separator in operation. The lunch was provided, as the early pioneer women served to the crew. A beef and buffalo barbecue began at 4 p.m. The buffalo was shot on a ranch near Elm Creek, Nebraska, and brought to Bruno for processing. A style show, announced by Mrs. Clarence Botava, showed women's fashions of 1963 to the 1860s, with many local women and girls modeling the outfits. Whisker judging was also a part of the evening's entertainment. There were 25 to 30 contestants for the beard judging, and Ted Castle had the best growing beard. Bands from several towns, numerous floats, antique vehicles, and Saddle Club members took part. After the parade, a talent show was held on the outside stage. A dance at 9 p.m. in the town hall was held to climax the day. Sunday's program began with a Jubilee Mass at 9:30 a.m. in St. Anthony's Catholic Church. Dinner was served by the women of the parish at 11 a.m. in the Firemen's Hall. Ben Dochikal directed the Brainerd Band in an old-time band concert at 1:30 p.m. A parade was held which included close to 100 separate entries. A book depicting the 75-year history of Bruno was compiled. In 1907, Turner Hall was built, known as the Soko Hall. It was operated as a Soko Lodge until about 1920, when the building was turned over to the Dramatic Club. Later, the building was owned by the Bruno Commercial Club, and in the mid-1940s, it was assigned to the Bruno Fire Department. It was sold to Anton Sofal of Loma, who dismantled it in 1980. In 1992, Michael Ostry purchased the flooring from Anton Sofal, where he had it stored in a chicken coop on his farm. Michael used the flooring in his new house, along with the flooring from Bruno's second church that was torn down by Rudy Kozicek in the 1970s. Mike always said that he used to play basketball on his living room floor, and he used to kneel to pray on the floor in his kitchen dining room. The building was used as a multi-purpose community building. Czech, school, and other plays were performed on the stage. Town meetings packed the hall when important issues arose. In the early days, silent movies were shown every week. There was no projection booth. The movies were shown by a projector located in the balcony. Dancing was enjoyed by local people and by many from the surrounding towns. No building used like the Sokol Lodge during that era was complete without curtains and backdrops painted with fanciful scenes and bearing the advertising of local and area merchants, and the Sokol Lodge was no exception. The Turner Hall was truly a landmark of numerous activities, remembered and reminisced by a multitude of people. Bruno Grain and Livestock Company was incorporated on February 6, 1911. The elevator building was completed in September at a cost of $5,000 and a corn crib at $500. Operation began in October of that year, with A.C. Tomek as manager. Grain was being brought, loaded in train cars, and shipped to market. Cattle and hogs were also loaded in train cars and shipped to market. On September 3, 1927, the Bruno Farmers Grain and Livestock Company held its first annual picnic at Stavas Park. In 1949, the company was reorganized under the name of Bruno Cooperative Association because of faithfulness of patrons who did not want to see it close. Joe Alexander was hired as a manager. In 1957, Roman Smausch became the manager. Since the 1956 and 1957 years were so dry, instead of buying corn and shipping it out, they had to haul corn in by truck from Minnesota and other places for the farmers to feed. The 1963 flood from Skull Creek became a disaster for the co-op when the entire watershed rushed into Bruno to sweep away petroleum storage tanks and oil drums, and to fill the bins of the grain elevator with brown, murky water. In June of 2014, an excavator tore into the old condemned Bruno Co-op Grain Association elevator. It was one of the oldest wooden grain elevators in Butler County, built 125 years ago. Bruno Co-op Grain Association soon merged with Cedar Bluffs Farmers Co-op, and then it was absorbed by Frontier Co-op out of Brainerd. The Bruno Volunteer Fire Department was organized in 1913. The Bruno Volunteer Fire Department had been sponsors of the following events during the years: Easter egg hunts, fall festival celebrations, 4th of July celebrations, Santa Claus, and trap shoots, also taking care of the wheelchairs, crutches, and walkers for the sick and handicapped.
The Bruno Volunteer Fire Department was organized in the year 1913, according to the village board records. However, record keeping for the fire department didn't start until 1916. The first fire truck was a 1918 Buick with chemical tanks to pressurize the water. Later on, Bruno got a 1941 Chevy fire truck that was an Army surplus truck. When Bruno Fire became Bruno Rural Protection District in 1955, a 1955 International fire truck was purchased. These trucks were housed in the Bruno Town Hall just up the road from here. The fire station was built in 1968 on the location where the doctor's office once stood. The building started with 3 parking bays with a meeting room on the south end and the 4th bay on the north end. The 4th bay was added later on in 1990s. Recently, in 2021, Bruno Fire Department has joined ranks with Abbey Fire Department and dubbed themselves Skull Creek Rural Fire Department.
As a remembrance of 9/11 is upon us, we will take a brief moment to remember the fallen heroes that answered the fire call and never returned home.
Battalion 1 to Manhattan. Battalion 1. We just had a plane crash into upper floor of the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center, tower number 1 is on fire. The whole outside of the building, there was just a huge explosion. We have a number of floors on fire. It looked like the plane was aiming towards the building. Transmitter third alarm. We'll have the staging area. An airplane crashed into the World Trade Center.
It's the 1st Battalion transmitted that it looked like it was intentional. It's four more units going into the box. It could be a terrorist attack.
Roll every available ambulance you got to this position. Division 110-4, that's confirmed. We have fire on several floors, the upper floors of the World Trade Center.
5, there was a plane that struck the building.
In 1918, 24 men from Bruno fought in World War I, with 2 giving the supreme sacrifice, Charles Kopetsky and Louis Smauch. In July 15, 1917, the Bruno Red Cross chapter was organized. In September of 1917 occurred one of the community's famous Red Cross drives. The local chapter of Bruno served a supper in which over 100 chickens and trimmings were donated by the citizens of the community. The community had raised $1,200 before, but boosted the total to $1,500 for the Red Cross. Speakers for the occasion were E.C. Hall, who spoke in English, and M.J. Baus in Czech. Editor L. Runyon commented in the People's Banner, "There is no place in the state where they have been more patriotic and have given up their boys with more grace than right here in Bruno. Parents who have come from Bohemia to America, have made their homes here, are giving their sons to go back and fight for the freedom of other nations, as well as their mother country. And those boys are not slow in volunteering." Representative Andrew J. Volstead introduced a bill to prohibit the sale of intoxicating liquors in Congress. It was passed in 1919 and repealed in 1933. Bruno celebrated the occasion of repealing the law on August 10, 1933. Part of the celebration was the funeral rite ceremony of the repealed law. In the hearse wagon lay Botinka shoemaker Cecil. Roman Rowe and George Hussik were the horses, Edward Hlovach, the darky, and Edward Rowe Ezekiel. Frank Neckel and Joseph Slosser were pallbearers, and Frank Vondra was Uncle Sam. Ladies followed the hearse with onions in towels to make them cry. Officiating at the ceremony was Louis Nakal, minister, and Joseph Smauch and James E. Prushkovets, assistants. The program included the parade, speeches, band concerts, stage plays, and concessions. The grand finale was a dance at night. 92 men and women went to fight the World War II enemies from Bruno area. 4 of these men did not come back, giving of their lives for our country: Dale Proctor, Edward Stayskull, Joseph Sedlacek, and Edward Hruska. An unsung hero for Bruno would be Rudy Kozishek, who volunteered to serve in the Office of Strategic Service, a forerunner of the Central Intelligence Agency. He had to be in the top 10% of those interviewed. It required intelligence, high physical standards, and the knowledge of a foreign language. The Kozisheks, although they were fourth-generation Czech Americans, still spoke Czech at home, thanks to their paternal grandmother, who was a more recent immigrant. Rudy trained in the Washington, D.C. area in all aspects of sabotage, demolition, and hand-to-hand combat. His advanced paratrooper training came in Egypt. In 1943, Rudy joined a reconnaissance battalion in Italy, and later was involved in 3 missions on Yugoslavian islands. In October, Rudy was transferred to work with the Greek resistance, replacing some Greek Americans. His unit took small boats from Italy to their missions to the Yugoslavian island and landed on the shore to set up artillery to destroy German garrisons. His group also ambushed a German railroad train with 200 German infantry and 8 trucks. In more modern terms, Rudy's service would have been similar to those of today's Army Rangers and Navy SEALs. His brother Fred Kozishek learned of his brother's service after doing a lot of research, and then traveled to New York in 2008 for a ceremony at which the Greek embassy presented plaques to the families of the 224 Americans who served in Greece during the war. Rudy was a quiet man and never talked much about his service, and for years he probably couldn't, given the classified nature of the operations. He returned to Bruno after the war, never marrying, but loving his nieces and nephews. He worked on the farm, at local factory jobs, and enjoyed small-town life. Another man who stands out for service in the World War II was Lieutenant George L. Hussik. He was a hero of a bombing attack in North Africa in October during the war. Lieutenant Hussik was flying as co-pilot on a daylight bombing mission at a time when advanced elements of the British 8th Army were penetrating the enemy's main positions in Egypt, during weeks before American forces landed in Africa. A piece of anti-aircraft shrapnel struck his right leg, causing a compound fracture, but Lieutenant Hussik refused to leave his post until the plane was landed safely, whereupon he slumped forward unconscious. He was convalescing at Oliver General Hospital, Augusta, Georgia, and then came home to Bruno to be with his wife, Adeline, and his small son. On October 14, 1943, having rendered inestimable service to his country, for which he received the Purple Heart and Silver Star Awards, 2 of the most highly coveted medals of the war, Lieutenant George Hussik, Bruno, one of Butler County's outstanding heroes, gave again to his country when he appeared at the rally in David City to assist in furthering sales of war bonds. He appeared on the platform garbed in his underwear and topcoat. His entire wardrobe, medals, and Army insignia were put on the auction block. Each item belonging to Hussik was sold separately for various prices amounting to the total sale of $23,650 for war bonds. Bruno held a homecoming of World War II veterans May 27, 1946. With perfect weather for the event, the Veterans Homecoming celebration brought out a huge crowd to honor and welcome the returned servicemen who were guests of the community that day. After assembly and the flag-raising ceremony at 9:30 a.m., the company, with flags flying and music by the Brainerd Band, marched to St. Anthony's Church, where Reverend Charles F. Rada offered the high mass for the men. After church, dinner was served by the ladies of the parish. The principal speaker, Ray Clark of radio station WOW in Omaha, was listened to with attention. The Legion Post of Brainerd, Prague, and David City participated in the drill and in the colors ceremony. A moment of silence was held, and then the names of the veterans of this locality who lost their lives in the war were read. Taps was sounded, following by a 16-gun salute. Retreat formation ended the program. There were rides, concessions, and games on the midway for the diversion of all. There was a time when movies were shown here in Bruno in the building, which is now owned by Robal's Taxidermy. Later on, during the 30s, the movies were shown outside on the vacant lot where the firehouse now stands. The movies were shown on a projector that was operated by a hand crank. The Rosanic family, who were residents of Bruno at that time, operated movie equipment. Henry, one of the sons of the Rosanics, had the job of turning the crank to operate the projector. After several minutes of turning, Henry started to get tired and would slow down the turning so that the movie began to show in slow motion. His father, who was watching from the sideline, would holler, "Dots Hendro," which meant, "Speed it up, Henry." As time went on, the businessmen hired Joe Jenny from Malmo to show a movie once a week. On those nights, the town was full of cars, coming early in the afternoon to park their cars in the area where they could sit in their car and watch the movie. Business would really boom on the show night, as the farmers would bring in their farm produce, sell it, and would take home groceries to last till the next show night. Then for many years, every weekend, there would be a polka dance in Bruno, or a town nearby, and these were always attended by large crowds. Other forms of entertainment were frequent card games in the local taverns. Games of taroks, pitch, pinochle, and sheep's head were played. For several years during the coldest winter months, the town would prepare and flood an area to be used as a skating rink. This was a very popular pastime for the youth and even the elderly. Louis J. Knuckle, who came to Bruno in 1907, was the director of annual check plays for many years given by Bruno residents in the Turner Hall. Often people from Prague, Bruno, Brainerd, and Abbey were included in the cast. Usually Simmons Orchestra of Dwight, accompanied by Spider Vlasak of Prague or Helen M. Gotsam on piano, played between acts. Reserved seats were sold ahead. Groups from local and distant Nebraska towns and South Dakota attended the plays. The plays were also given in different towns as Clarkson, Crete, Milligan, and others. After the play, the chairs were moved to the side of the hall. The dance floor was sprinkled with cornstarch or dance powder and swept. Before the dust settled, couples were dancing to the music. In the early teens and 20s, many towns had what was commonly known as a platform. Basically, it was an open-air dance floor. Bruno had one located just to the west and north of town in a pasture. The platform probably was about 50 feet by 50 feet square. It had benches built in on 3 sides and a mesh type of wire to keep out the freeloaders who did not want to pay the 25 cents admission price. The fourth side was used as an area to serve soft drinks and lunch. There being no air conditioning in those days, it was comfortable to dance under the stars. Between dance dates, the floor would get rough from being exposed to the weather, so before each dance, cornmeal was sprinkled on the floor, and someone with his Model A car would pull a bale of hay around and around until it got polished sufficiently to be slick for the dancing crowd.
In 1988, history was made when this barn was picked up and moved by hand. 688 hands to be exact, with 1 or 2 hands here or there. On July of 1988, Bruno was celebrating 100 years of being on the plains of Nebraska. And among the events that were being held, one event was a little bit peculiar. And this event was to move a barn. You see, where the barn was originally located, it constantly suffered from standing water inside after every rain. At a roundtable discussion at the dinner table, Herman Ostry and his son Mike devised a way to save the barn. Michael set out to calculate every post, every beam, board, and nail, along with the added lifting apparatus, and concluded that with enough people, it could be lifted to higher ground. But where do you find enough people to step up to the challenge? Advertised right along with Bruno's Centennial. Dubbed as the Bruno Centennial Barn, people from miles around would converge right onto this location. 344 people readied themselves inside and outside the barn, with countless spectators waiting for the command to lift.
Everyone be as quiet as possible, follow instructions. The only instruction that anyone can give that everyone needs to heed is the command of stop. If anyone says stop, no matter if on the mic or anywhere else, then everyone stop and hold. Don't stop, drop, and run, or we're going to have a disaster. Yeah. We're serious, folks. So if everybody faces to the east or toward the road here, toward the grab hold, plant your feet solid, buckle your knees, grab good hold, and just hold steady there. Grab on the sideways, Larry sideways, everyone sideways. On the side, no, on the side of the pipe. So on the side of you, the pipe's on the side of you, not in front of you or not in back of you, on the side of you. I guess we need to take a little bit of inspection run around the barn, Mike, and check on them if they look like they're situated correctly. Everybody just stay hanging on to your pipe there. First we're going to do is try and lift straight up, hold momentarily. We have people here that are documenting all of this, and they're going to be making records of it step by step. So our first step is to lift, And then we're going to momentarily hold. We're going to set back down so that you can get the feel of it, get the feel that you can work together. And then we're going to go on from there. We're going to try to set several records here today. One is just the lifting itself. And then if we accomplish that, we're going to try to move. And when we do that, we're not going to go very far. But we're going to, when we get to that, we're going to continue on that. So everybody now then, if you grab a hold, everyone ready. I see all the heads are down. I can see right through the bar. Okay, everyone all together, slowly and steadily lift. There's 6 Okay, watch out for your feet, the heels and everything, and slowly lower. Steady and slowly lower. There she comes. Beautiful. My goodness, it is beautiful. There, beautiful. Now, very slowly, very steadily come forward. Very slowly, very steadily. Just beautiful. Come slowly and steadily. Come slowly and steadily. That's beautiful. We're coming just as pretty as could be. Slowly stop. Slowly stop. There you go. Just pretty now. Slowly lower. Slowly lower. Just beautiful. You guys are working together just so perfect. How much of a better birthday present could we give Bruno? Just to show the world how we can work together. Just as pretty as could be. Side of you. Okay, everyone in the second holding, we have all the heads are down, so slowly, steadily lift again. Straight up. There you go. Beautiful. She's up again. Let's go slowly and steadily forward now. Real slow, real steadily forward. Beautiful. She's moving just beautiful. We're going to go to that flag over there, then we're going to stop and we're going to rest a bit. Just keep going very slow. Very steadily. Watch your footing. Don't step on the guy's heels and take small steps and move real slowly, as pretty as could be, just as beautiful as could be. We have just a couple more feet to go, so if you kind of slow down, anticipate a stop here. We're going to stop, momentary stop, right there, pretty as could be. Slowly lower, slowly lower. There you go, just as pretty as could be. There she's down. And they're ready now. You see anything, all the heads are down, they're mighty steady. Okay, all together, slowly, steadily lift. There she goes. Back up again. Slowly, steadily forward. Watch your heels. You just go slowly and steadily. Beautiful, beautiful. Slowly and steadily. You're doing a great job. Slowly and steadily. Careful of your heels, careful of your toe, man. You're doing a great job. Coming up close to the flag, we got another feet to go, but you're doing a good job. Slowly and steadily, just as pretty as could be. We're anticipating a stop. We're going to stop right there. So slowly lower, slowly lower. Yes, the north, yeah, we're going clockwise. Northeast is going to be going east. Southeast is going to be going west. Hold the heads down. Okay, everyone got a hold. Okay, slowly, steadily lift again. Okay, we'll slowly, steadily try to turn the barn. That way, she's coming. Just real slow, real steady. She's coming. Be careful of your feet and everything. Move with the barn. Just slowly and steadily come. So beautiful. Just straight. It's beautiful. Just slowly and steadily. We keep on going. Okay, we'll just keep right on going. She's going too great to stop. Just be careful. We'll just keep right on going. Pivoting just beautiful. Just beautiful. Just keep right on coming. But just keep right on slowly and steadily coming. Just beautiful. Just great. You guys are doing this the most beautiful job anyone could ever see. Slow down, slow down. We're going to stop. About there. Okay, we'll stop right. Just a hair more if we go. There you go. That's right about there. Okay? Okay, slowly lower. Slowly lower. Watch out for your heels, your feet, and steady it down. Okay, we have to everybody still hold your throat. We might need to go north a little bit. Okay, we're gonna be ready to go again, so if everyone gets a hold, grab hold again. Okay, all the heads are down, slowly, steadily lift. There you go. We'll come slowly again this way, to the north, forward, and watch your heels. We slowly and steadily come up this way. You're doing a good, beautiful job. Just great. You got some women carriers. They're doing a fantastic job. It's just a beautiful job. Couldn't want it any better. What a way to celebrate the dear Bruno 100-year birthday. What a birthday present. Just a great job. We're coming close to the flag now. We're going to slowly stop. Stop right there, okay? Slowly lower. Slowly lower. You're doing such a good job, I don't even have to watch what I'm saying very much anymore. Okay? It's beautiful. Okay, again, momentarily hold your places. We're going to get some blocks. We're going to do some more. We're going to get some blocks under there.
It was Herman Ostry's idea. His barn needed moving to higher ground anyway, and he thought this would be a grand way to celebrate Bruno, Nebraska's centennial. Some had no doubt that with a hearty heave-ho, the barn would go.
Think you're strong enough to lift it? Hell yes, I can lift 90 pounds.
But others weren't so sure.
I hope so. I think so.
I hope so, because my husband's there helping. I hope it works.
Know anybody that's lifting it?
My dad and my uncle are.
Are they real strong? To pull off a project like this, you need a lot of muscle and a little help from above.
I mean, for doing something you've never done before, you better be praying.
Okay, everyone, all together, slowly and steadily lift. There she goes, baby.
The proudest lifter of the bunch has got to be Ernie Nojiska. He's 90 years old.
Is it heavy? No, I got muscles.
And with Ernie and 327 others, they moved the barn 134 feet, 8 inches, turned it around, and set it back down without a hitch.
Nothing to it, was it? We had many people joking, asking if we're going to carry it to town, and I think we could have done it.
And who knows, in another 100 years when Bruno celebrates its bicentennial, they might just do it. Near Bruno, Gary Johnson, Action News 6.
That's pretty neat.
I'm telling you, I'm not going to mess with the residents of Bruno. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you.
Does anybody have any questions? Maybe Karen would answer them for us if you do. Karen, would you answer some questions?
Why did they have to tear down that, the second church?
We were told that it was starting to split. It was, the sides were starting to open up, and that it was safer just to take it down and to rebuild a new church.
Any other questions?
Was there ever a time when, you know, the one church burned down, but the one that you were just talking about, and I remember this as a child, there was a fire, and it was either Holy Saturday or Easter Sunday, there was a fire that started somewhere in the church in the back.
I think it was in the sacristy.
In the sacristy, and so all the men tried to get all the statues and stuff out, and the only one they could not move was the St. Anthony statue. They could not move that for some reason.
It was pretty high up.
Yeah, it was too high up. It was pronounced.
Anybody else? Okay, well, if that is it, I'd like to, oh, we got one, I'm sorry.
How about, how many people here were moving the barn? Maybe they should stand. That's right.
Quite a few of them, and they're actually still standing pretty straight, too.
Got muscle.
That's right. I'd like to thank the whole Ostry family for this great presentation, and we'll give them a certificate of appreciation for the Mike and Karen Ostry family, and it comes with a free, a free involvement in our organization. That's right. The word's gone, sorry. It's a membership, a free membership in our organization. That's the word I'm looking for. I am getting there. And by the looks of the crew, we probably doubled our organization's membership just tonight. So we appreciate it. So thank you very much. A couple of notes before we leave. Next month, Diane Dern will do the history of Rising City on October 2nd. Same time, same place. So if you'd like to register on the way out, it helps us figure out how many kolaches to bring and chairs to set up and such. We have Dan Saley's book, The Best in Nebraska Bohemians, for sale in the back of the room. Dan graciously donates all the profits to that book to our Butler County Historical Society. And somewhere in this room, Dan is at. And he's going back there. There he is. And if you'd like to buy one and have him sign it, he would, I'm sure, be glad to do it. We're grateful to the Butler County Area Foundation and the Nebraska State Historical Society Foundation for grants that help pay for this. Even so, if you want to throw a few bucks in the kitty on the way out or on the way in, we appreciate it. I'll thank Cheryl Hine for running the table out front, and the library for the water, and Mark for filming it, and Judy and whoever else is helping in the back with selling the calendars and books, and Jane for her opening, and Jackie for the kolaches as always, and my wife Gina for doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Most of all of you for coming, so drive safe and have a good night.